Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to lecture 27. In this lecture we will discuss the alternate sources of the municipal finance. In the last lecture we started the discussion on the municipal finance, and we had a discussion on the overview of the municipal finance, what are the classical and the traditional sources of the municipal finance, and we discussed four distinct aspects like management of the expenditure, management of the assets, and the resource mobilization and augmentation, and also management of the investment. And today we will discuss the alternate sources of the municipal finance, because the traditional or the main finance may not be sufficient in times, and out of that we will discuss in details the bonds and the borrowings, and we will see one example of financing public infrastructure, what kind of issues in the public infrastructure they face and what kind of strategy you can take, just as an example we will discuss. So, let us start. So, this we know that revenue generation, it has augmentation, and the saving is expenditure, and there is no other shortcut. Only thing that we can augment the sources of the revenue and we can save the expenditure by various methods we have discussed our last day. Now, based on the last few decades work in the municipality, there are few lessons learned. Let me discuss first that some lessons and the trends. So, emergence of the municipal bonds and pooled financing as a viable options for the infrastructure finance has been seen in last few decades. So, please see the municipal bond and the pooled financing. Then municipal bonds and pooled financing only for the financially stronger municipal bodies. This also another observation we have seen, that apart from the classical traditional finance sources, only the larger municipalities and the corporation, they are able to mobilize and generate the pooled finance sources. Then that the bankable projects, municipalities they or the corporation, they do many projects, but there are very few projects which is bankable. Bankable projects is that the projects which can be credit worthy, where bank can invest money for where they find that yes, some amount of recovery can be there and they can pay the bank with these EMIs. Then government of incentive funds are just now taking off for the pooled financing to enable the smaller municipalities, so that they can also get the advantage of the pooled financing. Continued requirement of the state central grants to make projects financing plan commercially viable. That means that traditionally the municipality, they have been financing the major projects using the state and central government grants. So, that is basically the challenge is how you can make the projects commercially viable. Users willing to contribute if project implementation guaranteed. So, basically for any project, if you think about the recovery, the user charge is a very important component on the recovery, but the moment you talk about the user charge, people are basically initially unwilling. So, if you assure them that well, the project implementation within time is guaranteed and they will get a better service, definitely users will be willing to give at least some amount of the user charges. It has been seen in last various decades. So, and local reforms, some kind of local reforms through the municipality and the ward committee can also be done. Now, why we need based on this this trend and the learnings, what kind of alternative sources financings are there and why we need alternate sources of financing? Because basically our conventional source is inadequate. It is not possible to fund each and every project of the city by conventional sources, because two reasons: the conventional sources are limited, number one, and number two, the collection efficiency is also limited, and overnight it cannot be increased randomly in a very high rate. It takes time to enhance or to augment the revenue from the conventional sources. Therefore, alternative source is very much important. Second is bridging the resource gap. Maybe for some project you need 100 rupees, some resource you are getting from some government grant, for example 80% or 70%. So, how you can bridge the gap of 20-30%. So, that bridging the gap is important for that particular project. Improving the financial and the project management capabilities. Sometimes you need to have additional fund which is not included in the project financing to monitor and manage the project. So, that also could be required additionally. Inculcating financial discipline. Now, alternate sources of financing can also give you some amount of financial discipline along with the regular sources of funding. Attaining objectives of accountability, transparency and efficiency. We had a detailed discussions on the accountability and the transparency application of the RTI Act, e-governance and all those elements in the first section of this course. So, therefore, you could, I hope you could understand that those kind of systems and the mandates can also improve the improvement of the accountability and transparency in the accounting and the financing mechanism of the organization. So, let us see the alternative method of financing. So, one could be the loan financing, like from banks or specialized intermediaries. There could be like small financing mechanism. The banks could be like commercial bank, there could be infrastructure banks, there could be municipal development funds. Most of the commercial banks are nationalized, there are few infrastructure banks also, they also provide money for the investment. Apart from that, there could be private sector participation like private public partnership and also complete private partner participation. It can be leasing, contracting, franchising, concession, service and management, and there could be various methods like BO, build, operate and own, build, operate, own and transfer, bold, boost. We will have a dedicated lecture on the PPP mode in the end of this week. So, I am not going into much details right now, and apart from this loan financing and private financing, there could be also financing like the service and user charge, which basically is partially explored or unexplored areas of the municipal finance. Apart from this, there could be other financing mechanism like capital market. From the capital market, you can use equity or bonds like municipal bond, pool financing, special infrastructure funds. There could be government of incentive funds. Time to time Government of India and sometimes state government, they have used the incentive funds like centrally sponsored schemes and other schemes. So, these are also kind of another alternate source of municipal financing, and there could be financing like upfront user contribution, like even in the beginning of the project, the users also can contribute for the project through the project. So, these are the alternative financing mechanism. It may not be possible that each and every urban local bodies explore each and every alternate possibility, but definitely some of all these possibilities are applicable and it is possible to explore. Now, let us see little details about the municipal bond. Basically, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation was the first urban local bodies to access the Indian capital market in terms of the bond. So, they first got the credit rating in 1996. They started the municipal bond, and first municipal bond without state government guarantees 1998. So, they started rupees 100 crore capital from the market. They could augment that kind of huge funding from the market, where the annual interest was 14% and 7-year tenure, and private placement was 75%. So, Ahmedabad municipal bond was the first of its kind in the country, and that showed the path that yes it is possible to generate funding from the equity and the fund and the bond also. And after 1997 you can see that several cities have issued such municipal bond, for example, Nasik 100 crore, Nagpur 50 crores, Ludhiana, Madurai, or there are many. So, they try to issue municipal bonds and that has been successful. The bond issued by the Municipal Corporation of the Madurai was issued for refinance an existing project. So, those kind of special projects also could be identified for raising the bond, because that could help in time to time and your case to case. And in most of the cases bond proceeds were used to fund water and sewerage scheme. Now, the public infrastructure like water supply, road, sewerage, these are the major project which people basically give the priority and the preferences, and for getting money or getting a contribution from the people in a municipal bond, if you can identify all these projects as a icon project or as a landmark project, so that people become interested and they can see that yes, if you can participate, not only we get some revenue, also we get some better services in near future. So, that is the important part of the municipal bonds. Then there could be tax free municipal bonds, like say Ahmedabad I told, there could be there are Hyderabad 82 crores, Vizag also 50 crores, Nasik I told. There are few municipal corporation utility boards use 120 crores. So, there are many examples where they tried mobilize the finance from through the municipal bond system. Then pooled finance development scheme, it is basically that how people the organization can pool the finance from various groups or individual or the agencies, and that can be utilized for the public financing. So, this is the only financially strong large municipal corporations are in a position to directly access the capital markets through pooled finance. Most small and medium ULBs are not able to access this. I have told that small ULBs are not able to access this fund. The cost of the transaction is significant barrier. Now, a proper system need to be there in the place to make this mechanism working. Therefore, small municipalities may not be able to do it. So, there are various organizations like KUIDFC access the capital markets by pooling and municipalities around Bangalore. Then pooled finance development scheme has been designated to facilitate access to capital market by smaller urban local bodies. So, these are some of the actions by the government of India and the other the state government, so that the local governments for the smaller cities and the medium cities, they also get some amount of facilitation to access this kind of financing. Then borrowing from the commercial banks. Now, urban local bodies have also started financing their urban infrastructure project through commercial bank, any banks. For example, Vadodara Municipal Corporation obtained a loan totaling 700 million from the commercial bank. The Thane Municipal Corporation obtained a loan about 500 million in 2001. But one issue in this commercial bank is that they will only finance the project if the municipality can show the project as a cost recovery project and bankable project, and then only the bank will provide the funding for the investment in that project. So, those are very important. So, therefore, the detailing and the designing of the project is important. In the coming weeks, we will have a dedicated week on the discussion on the project formulation. That time definitely we will touch upon this issue, that how a project can be formulated in such a way so that the project becomes bankable, project shows the recovery, it shows the timely completion, so that it gets the additional resources from also from the commercial bank, and at times it may not be the only source of the funding, it can bridge the gap or the viability gap of the project. Now, let us see one example of a resource mobilization of a urban water supply scheme. What are the major concerned issues and what we can do for the similar kind of projects. Now, the issues are the given the fund constant, what should be the service delivery norm, like the frequency, duration, these are the norms. In Government of India, there was a program like service level benchmarking. Right now in the Amrut mission, they have given the norms for each and every city, so you can follow that. Now, should cost be the only consideration for selecting the ground source as the source of supply? So, apart from the cost, what could be the other consideration like environmental consideration, like return consideration. So, those need to be considered. What about a rational water tariff policy? So, therefore, it is not the cost, it is the cost and the return of the service that is also applicable here. Should we go for 24-hour supply from contamination point of view? So, this is a technical matter, you have to take a logical and the rational decision that whether 24-hour supply is possible or less amount of duration will be sufficient for your city. Should groundwater recharging, rainwater harvesting, all this need to be considered along with the normal water supply. So, in integration you can make a comprehensive plan of water supply from the ground source or the surface source, and you can integrate the groundwater recharging, rainwater harvesting, all these along with your water supply. So, that the financer or the funding agency, they can understand that yes, the municipality has considered all relevant considerations and they have taken into consideration, and then only they have finalized this project. Then if there is a requirement for the privatization of the project, there are few prerequisites for a water supply project. For example, projects sustaining on stand-alone basis. The project itself as a stand-alone basis should be self-sustaining and self-recovering project. Then only private people will be interested to invest. Return on investment, that is ROI, comparable to the market expectation. If a private sector understand that return on investment is less than any other comparative investment which is available in the market, they will not be interested. Deployment of the fund, debt commercially acceptable. So, if the deployment of the fund or the debt part, if it is commercially acceptable, then only they will be interested. Effective cost recovery measures like environmental friendly projects. So, if it is a environment friendly project and cost recovery component is there, they will be interested, and these are the prerequisite for the water supply project, and that you can take care during the project formulation time. Then there are few management issues in the planning process of a water supply project. For example, to have a development perspective for different time horizon, it will come from your development plan of the city and the area level plan, then stabilizing existing system to sustain the service level. So, what is this the service delivery of the existing system and how you can sustain the service level for the future? These are the management issues. Developing additional source and transmission arrangement. So, what are the additional source? If your current source is the ground, what are the additional source? If you have a surface source near about your municipality or distant areas, what is the transmission and what is the transportation mechanism or the arrangement that has to be considered. Then better water resource management through the safeguarding of the water resource. For example, as I told earlier that groundwater recharging, rainwater harvesting, that also can be included and integrated, so that the actual demand of the water through this classical source like surface or the ground is become minimal, and so that you can show better recovery, better return from the project. Analysis of existing distribution system and arranging for addition or alteration. What is your existing distribution system like networks, pipes, pipeline, and how and what is the condition, and does this need any augmentation or the improvement or upgradation, and what is the plan for the new areas which will be included for this augmentation of the pipelines and the network, that also need to be considered. Better quality surveillance. So, water supply is such a service that there are amount of leakage and the wastage is involved. Therefore, you need a better quality of surveillance, so that you can minimize the wastage and the leakage, and also you can ensure the maximum amount of recovery. Management issues like 1M water pricing policies, unaccounted water, that is the leakage and this and the wastage. Groundwater, how you can keep a balance. Land and technology. For water supply you need larger land and better technology for a green water supply treatment plant. Financial and institutional management, whether your current institutional setup or municipal setup is going to implement the project, or you are going to create a new setup, new organization to manage the project. So, that decision need to be taken, and how you are going to mobilize the resource, what are the possible sources, and if you find any gap, how you are going to fulfill that gap. Those are the management issues of a water supply project, but some of the issues are also applicable for other infrastructure project as well. And in resource mobilization, as water supply as per the standard norms require large capital investment in crores, definitely cost of production is dependent on O&M cost and capital cost. Capital cost is again dependent on loan repayment and replacement of the plant and machinery. These are important. In our country, sizable part of the city town population live in slums and belong to EWS category. Therefore, the implication of this is that they cannot repay or they cannot provide in user charge. So, how you can make a variable kind of user charge in your city, that is the challenge for you, and provision of potable water as public good is required to be continued with government, be it state or local. So, water is such a service that every people in the municipality, that is the first requirement from the demand from the municipality, and if you can provide a better quality water in a better service water, then you can not only satisfy the people's need, you can also reduce the cases of the public health problems, epidemics, etc. Therefore, designing of a water supply project which is basically viable projects and which shows that return and recovery is possible is basically challenging, but yes, it is possible. So, there could be some possible ways in terms of the strategies. So, you can adopt a tariff policy to cover the O&M charges. So, as I told, there could be a variable policy. You can exempt the poor people like economically weaker section and lower income group people, allowing 10 to 20% of the produced water to be sold to the industries at industrial rate. So, this rate should not be compromised and subsidized. So, this part of the water will be sold directly to the industry with industrial rate. Making provision of annual O&M cost of 5 years after commissioning the project estimate at the planning stage. So, operation and maintenance cost for 5 years should be kept at the time of the project formulation, so that at the initial period, the 5 years, you do not have to bother about the user charge and everything, and you get some time buffer, time cushion, so that slowly and gradually you can start the project recovery through the user charges from the people. Collecting advance registration charges as community contribution by capital cost. This is a innovative method. You can start advance registration, that people who registered in advance, they will get some amount of incentives in terms of the user charge. So, those kind of mechanism which is innovative and which can create a enthusiasm among the people also can also create some amount of resource mobilization. Tax free municipal bonds we have discussed in details, we have shown. Institutional finance, that means the bank loans and loans from other agencies you can try. So, these are some possible ways and strategies which you can try. So, the today's lecture was basically an overview of the alternate sources. Out of the alternate sources, we have discussed basically the bonds and the sources from the institutional finance or the public finance and the commercial banks, and out of that, after that we have seen how a typical infrastructure project like water supply can be implemented, and what are the major criteria in designing that project, especially the financing the project, and we have also shown some of the possible ways and strategies how the project can be made viable. Definitely this is a very indicative, the lectures I could not show in this lecture very specific example. Definitely in coming lectures and the reference materials, I will try to give you some examples so that you can get the idea that how a infrastructure project can be designed in a complete viability. So, those kind of thing is required. I request all of you that you please visit your websites of the some of the municipalities which I mentioned today, like Ahmedabad, Baroda, Nagpur and Madurai, all these municipalities, and see that how they have augmented their resources from various sources, the traditional sources and the alternate sources. So, next lecture we will discuss about the municipal accounts, because in the last few decades we have seen that there is a major reform in the municipal accounts, and efficiency of the municipal accounts ensure a better financing position, better asset management in the municipality. Therefore, our lecture, the next lecture will be municipal accounts. So, with this we conclude. Thank you very much for attending.